February 1945, Northern Apennines, Italy. A soldier from the 10th Mountain Division crouches behind a rocky outcrop as wind screams across the frozen mountain. The temperature hovers near 0 Fahrenheit. He hasn't had hot food in 2 days. His K rations sit in his pack, frozen solid. Ice crystals form on his breath. He reaches for his issued M1942 mountain stove, specialized equipment for mountain troops, Army approved, designed specifically for situations like this. He sets it up with numb fingers, pours gasoline from his vehicle's reserve can into the tiny fuel tank, and begins the lighting procedure. First, pressurize the tank with the hand pump. 12 strokes, 15, 20. Fill the priming cup 3/4 full with raw fuel. Light it. Wait 30 seconds for the vaporizer to heat up. Now open the valve. Nothing. The fuel won't flow. The vaporizer screen is clogged. He tries again, pumps harder. Still nothing. The priming flame dies out. He's back to square one, and now his fingers are too cold to try again. 50 yards away, across no man's land, a German soldier pulls a flat metal square from his pocket, unfolds it twice, drops in a small white tablet, strikes a match. Within 2 minutes, he's heating soup in his mess kit. No pumps, no priming, no tools, no maintenance, no problems. Same mountains, same temperature, same desperate need for hot food, but completely different results. The mountain trooper couldn't understand it. The Army had given him specialized equipment, precision-engineered, made by Coleman, Aladdin, and Prentice Webers, manufacturers known for quality outdoor equipment. It had pressurization systems, adjustable valves, sophisticated fuel delivery. It was supposed to be advanced. So why was it worse than useless? The answer came down to one small detail, one fundamental choice American engineers made when they decided to build a soldier's personal stove, a choice that seemed smart, seemed advanced, seemed like progress, until soldiers tried to use it in actual combat conditions. To understand how America got this so catastrophically wrong, we need to go back to 1936, to Germany, to a simple invention that would change field cooking forever. Before the M1942 stove failed thousands of American soldiers, before Coleman engineers drew their first blueprints, there was the Esbit. In 1936, a German entrepreneur named Erich Schumm patented something remarkable. Not the fuel itself. Hexamine had been discovered decades earlier. What Schumm invented was a way to press this chemical compound into stable, reliable tablets. Solid fuel you could light with a match. No liquid to spill. No vapor to ignite accidentally. No complex machinery required. He called it Esbit, short for Erich Schumm Brennstoff in Tablettenform, Erich Schumm's fuel in tablet form. The concept was almost insultingly simple. Take a chemical that burns hot and clean, press it into small tablets, package it in a cardboard box, pair it with a folding metal stand that weighs less than 4 ounces. That was it. That was the entire system. A piece of folded metal and some pressed chemical tablets. The German military recognized the value immediately. By 1940, when mechanized warfare demanded that soldiers operate far from field kitchens, when infantry needed to stay mobile and self-sufficient, the Esbit became standard issue. Every German soldier could carry several days' worth of cooking fuel in his pocket. Each tablet weighed just 4 grams. 20 tablets fit in a box the size of a deck of cards. The stove itself folded completely flat, thin enough to slip into a bread bag, light enough to forget you're carrying it. The performance was equally straightforward. Unfold the metal stand, place a tablet in the center, light it with a match, set your mess kit on top, wait. That's the entire procedure. No steps, no preparation, no maintenance, no cleaning, no tools required. The tablets burned for 5 to 7 minutes each, hot enough to boil a cup of water, smokeless. So they didn't give away positions, nearly odorless during combustion, almost unlimited shelf life when stored dry. More importantly, the system was virtually indestructible. The metal stand had no moving parts to break, no valves to clog, no seals to wear out, no pumps to fail. Drop it in mud, wipe it off, it works. Freeze it to 20 below, it works. Get it soaking wet, dry it off, it works. German tank crews carried them. Motorcycle dispatch riders kept them in their panniers. Infantry squads stashed them in their packs. Scouts relied on them during extended patrols. Officers and enlisted men alike trusted the same simple equipment. It worked in the snow of the Eastern Front. It worked in the heat of North Africa. It worked in the mountains of Italy. It worked in the rain of France. Same stove, same fuel. Same reliable performance everywhere. The system's simplicity meant something crucial. A soldier could operate it under any conditions. Exhausted after 3 days without sleep? Light the stove. Hands numb from cold? Light the stove. Under artillery fire and needing hot food fast? Light the stove. The procedure never changed. The equipment never failed. But here's what matters most. American intelligence officers knew about these stoves. They'd captured samples. They'd examined them. They'd watched them work. They'd read the reports from North Africa where German troops routinely had hot meals while Allied forces ate cold rations. The evidence was clear. The German approach, simple, solid fuel tablets with no mechanical complexity, worked flawlessly in field conditions. So, what did America do? The United States Army looked at the problem of feeding soldiers in the field. They understood the challenge: mechanized warfare, extended operations, men operating far from field kitchens, the need for hot food to maintain morale and combat effectiveness. They knew specialized troops needed personal cooking equipment, something compact, something reliable, something that would work anywhere, especially mountain units that would operate in extreme cold and high altitude. The Army contracted with American manufacturers to create a solution. Coleman had already produced the M1941 pocket stove, a pressurized gasoline burner that served armored troops. Now came Bestor Robinson's design, specifically for mountain warfare, the M1942. American engineers approached the problem with American confidence. They would build something better than the German system, more advanced, more sophisticated, more powerful. The M1942 mountain stove embodied that philosophy. Compact design, yes. It collapsed to 6.5 inches tall, light enough for backpacking, made from durable stainless steel and brass. But the fuel system, that's where American engineers showed their sophistication. Pressurized gasoline, a hand pump to build pressure in the tank, a vaporizer that superheated the fuel, precision jets that atomized the gasoline for efficient combustion, adjustable valves for flame control, a tip cleaning needle to clear carbon buildup. On paper, it was brilliant. In testing at factories, it performed beautifully. In demonstrations at comfortable room temperature, it impressed everyone. The stove could burn regular gasoline, the same fuel that powered jeeps and trucks, logistically efficient. No need for special fuel supplies. Soldiers could refill their stoves from vehicle tanks. The heat output was impressive. Properly adjusted, the M1942 could boil water faster than the simple German tablet stove. The flame was controllable. The fuel was readily available. The engineering was sound. Quality control tests passed. Specifications were met. Production ramped up. Aladdin Industries manufactured them. So did Prentice Webers. So did Coleman. Thousands rolling off assembly lines, ready for deployment to mountain troops. The stoves shipped to units that would need them most. The 10th Mountain Division training in Colorado. Special mountain units, patrol forces. Troops who would operate in extreme conditions far from field kitchens. Except they weren't ready. Not really. Because American engineers had made a critical assumption, one that seemed perfectly reasonable in a factory, one that made complete sense during brief quality control tests, one that would prove catastrophically wrong in actual field conditions. They'd assumed that a more complex system was a better system, that sophistication meant superiority, that American engineering could improve on German simplicity. They were wrong. February 1945. American mountain troops fighting across the northern Apennines, temperatures dropping below freezing regularly, men operating in snow, sleet, freezing rain at high altitude, exactly the conditions where hot food matters most. That's when these specialized soldiers discovered the truth about their sophisticated stoves, the truth that would be repeated in countless mountain positions, in frustrated after-action reports, in letters home. The M1942 stoves failed, not occasionally, systematically, predictably. The gasoline clogged the vaporizer screen. The precision fuel delivery system that American engineers were so proud of? It plugged up constantly, because the gasoline available in the field wasn't clean white gas. It was regular vehicle fuel, often containing additives, full of impurities. Those impurities left deposits, sediment in the tank. The miniature fuel passages couldn't handle it. The vaporizer screens clogged within days, sometimes within hours. Soldiers carried cleaning tools for this exact reason, small wires to clear the jets. The tip cleaning needle was built into the stove, but in combat conditions, with numb fingers, in the dark, under stress, how many times could you disassemble and clean your stove before something went wrong? The cold made everything worse. Gasoline at 15 degrees doesn't vaporize easily. The priming process, heating the vaporizer with burning fuel before opening the main valve, became critical. Miss a step, rush the procedure, don't wait long enough, and the stove sputters and dies. The pump seals hardened in cold weather. Leather gaskets became stiff. Rubber components lost flexibility. Soldiers who could build good pressure at 30 degrees found their pumps useless at 0. The complexity that seemed like an advantage became a liability. Every moving part was something that could fail. Every seal was something that could leak. Every adjustment was something that could be done wrong. Compare that to the German soldier's experience. Reach into pocket, pull out stove, unfold it, drop in tablet, light match. Done. 30 seconds from cold stove to hot flame. Every single time, in any weather, under any conditions. Mountain troops noticed. How could they not? When you're fighting the same enemy in the same weather and he's eating hot food while you're gnawing frozen rations, you notice. When American units overran German positions, something revealing happened. Soldiers would search through captured equipment, past ammunition, past weapons, straight to the personal gear, looking specifically for those simple folding stoves. German Esbit stoves became prized items among mountain troops and patrol units, traded between soldiers. Kept quiet from supply officers who might confiscate them, passed from veteran to replacement. Everyone wanted one who could get one. Some soldiers did direct comparisons, pull out issued M1942, set it up, pump it, prime it, wait, adjust, clean the vaporizer screen, try again, maybe get it working after 15 minutes, then pull out captured Esbit, unfold, light tablet, boiling water in 3 minutes. Same soldier, same mountain position, same desperate need for hot food, completely different results. The reports flooded back to quartermaster units, not isolated complaints. Systematic problems across multiple divisions. Officers filed formal reports. Soldiers wrote scathing letters. The pattern was undeniable. The sophisticated American stove, with its pressurization, its vaporizer, its precision engineering, was failing in exactly the conditions it was designed for. Meanwhile, the absurdly simple German stove worked flawlessly. Army investigators started asking questions. What were the Germans doing that we weren't? Why did their equipment work when ours failed? What had American engineers missed? The answer was staring them in the face, had been there all along, visible in every captured German stove, but somehow overlooked during the entire design process. The answer wasn't in what the German stove had, it was in what it didn't have. No pump, no pressure system, no gasoline, no vaporizer, no screens, no valves, no seals, no moving parts, no tools required, no maintenance needed. Just solid fuel tablets and a metal stand. That was it. That was the detail American engineers had missed. They'd looked at a brilliantly simple solution and decided to replace it with complexity. They'd seen a system with no moving parts and added dozens. They'd found equipment that never needed maintenance and created equipment that required constant attention. The German approach wasn't primitive. It was perfected. The Esbit's simplicity wasn't a limitation. It was the entire point. Every feature American engineers added was something else that could fail in field conditions. Solid fuel tablets solved every problem gasoline created. No clogging because there were no screens, no pump failures because there was no pump, no seal problems because there were no seals, no difficulty in cold weather because the fuel was already solid. The tablets worked at 60 below zero. They worked at 120 above. They worked soaking wet, dry them off, they still burned. They worked at high altitude, they worked in mud, they worked in sand, they worked in snow. Most importantly, they worked for soldiers under stress. Exhausted men with frozen hands could operate an Esbit stove. Combat doesn't allow time for careful priming procedures and jet cleaning. You need equipment that works immediately, every time, without thought. That's what solid fuel provided. That's what the Germans understood. That's what American engineers had dismissed as too simple. The cost of getting it wrong accumulated slowly, not in dramatic failures or catastrophic casualties, in thousands of small degradations of combat effectiveness. Every time an American mountain trooper ate cold rations because his stove wouldn't work, his morale dropped a little. His body lost a little more heat it couldn't afford to lose. His effectiveness declined incrementally. Every time he spent 15 minutes fighting with a clogged stove while a German soldier spent 2 minutes heating soup, that was an advantage lost, not decisive in any single instance, but compounding across thousands of meals over months of mountain warfare. Think about the individual experience. High-altitude patrol in the Apennines, miles from the nearest road, temperature near zero. You haven't had hot food in 36 hours. You finally have a moment to stop, to rest, to heat something. You pull out your issued stove, follow the procedure you've memorized. Pump, prime, wait, light, open the valve, and nothing happens. The vaporizer screen is clogged again. You try to clean it with numb fingers. Drop the tool. Can't find it in the snow. Even if you find it, you're not sure you can thread the cleaning wire through the miniature passage without being able to feel what you're doing. So you eat cold rations, again, and watch across the valley as smoke rises from German positions, as they heat their meal with equipment that never fails them. That was the reality for mountain troops and specialized units, equipment that promised hot meals but delivered frustration. Technology that looked advanced but proved inadequate. Engineering that prioritized sophistication over reliability. Some soldiers tried to modify their M1942 stoves, used different fuels, changed maintenance schedules, carried extra cleaning supplies. Nothing solved the fundamental problem. The design was too complex for field conditions. The soldiers who acquired German Esbit stoves learned a different lesson. They learned that sometimes the simplest solution is the best solution. That reliability beats sophistication. That equipment designed around combat realities works better than equipment designed in a laboratory. By war's end, the pattern was clear. The American stove had failed not because of poor manufacturing or inadequate materials. It failed because the entire design philosophy was wrong. Because engineers had chosen complexity when simplicity was called for. Because they dismissed the German approach as too basic without understanding why it worked. The lesson eventually sank in. After the war, military procurement shifted. Hexamine fuel tablets became standard in American rations. The British adopted them as Tommy cookers. NATO forces standardized around solid fuel systems for personal cooking. Modern military rations worldwide include hexamine or similar solid fuel tablets. The folding stove design, barely changed from the 1936 Esbit, remains standard issue in many armies, because the lesson was finally learned, the hard way, through thousands of soldiers eating cold rations in frozen foxholes, through endless reports of equipment failure, through the stark comparison between American complexity and German simplicity. The detail America missed wasn't hidden, wasn't secret, wasn't even subtle. It was right there in captured German equipment, visible to anyone who looked. Solid fuel tablets, no jets to clog, no pumps to fail, no vaporizers to maintain, no complexity to fail under stress. Just a chemical tablet that burns when you light it. Simple, reliable, effective. That was the genius American engineers missed. They looked at the Esbit system and saw something to improve upon, something to make more sophisticated, something to re-engineer with American technical superiority. They should have just copied it exactly, because sometimes the simple solution is already the perfect solution, because sometimes removing complexity is the real innovation, because sometimes the best engineering is the engineering you don't do. German engineers understood this in 1936. They'd tested liquid fuel systems, they'd tried complex designs, they'd experimented with various approaches, and they'd concluded that solid fuel tablets with a simple metal stand was the optimal solution for soldiers in the field. That conclusion came from extensive testing, from learning what worked and what didn't, from understanding that combat conditions demand simplicity and reliability above all else. American engineers didn't do that work. They assumed more engineering meant better results. They assumed American industrial sophistication would triumph. They were wrong. And American soldiers, especially mountain troops and patrol units, paid the price. In cold meals, in frustration, in unnecessary hardship, in the grinding realization that the enemy had better personal cooking equipment because the enemy understood what actually mattered in combat. The M1942 stove serves as a lasting reminder about the danger of complexity for its own sake, about the value of simplicity, about understanding the actual conditions where equipment will be used before finalizing the design. It's a reminder that sometimes the best solution is the one that removes problems rather than solving them. That reliability matters more than sophistication. That engineering genius isn't always about adding features. Sometimes it's about knowing what not to add. German soldiers trusted their Esbit stoves completely because the stoves earned that trust. Every time, in every condition, without exception. Mountain troops and specialized units learned not to trust their M1942 stoves because the stoves betrayed that trust. Repeatedly, predictably. That's the difference between equipment designed around simplicity and equipment designed around sophistication. Between engineering that serves the user and engineering that serves the engineer's ego. Between solutions that work and solutions that merely look advanced. The detail that made the Esbit genius wasn't clever engineering. It was the deliberate choice to avoid clever engineering, to keep the system so simple that nothing could go wrong, to eliminate every possible failure point, to make the equipment soldier-proof. That's what American engineers missed. Not a technical detail, a philosophy, an understanding that in combat, simplicity is sophistication, that reliability is advancement, that the best equipment is equipment that never makes a soldier think about it, it just works. Every American soldier who ate hot soup from a captured German stove understood this immediately. They learned the lesson American engineers should have learned before a single M1942 rolled off the production line. Sometimes the detail you miss isn't something small, sometimes it's something fundamental. Sometimes it's realizing that the simple solution you're trying to improve upon doesn't need improvement. It needs copying. Exactly as it is. Solid fuel tablets in a folding metal stove. That was the genius. That was what American soldiers needed. That was what German soldiers had all along. And that was what American engineers failed to recognize until it was too late. If this deep dive into World War II engineering missteps and combat realities resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe. Next time, we're looking at another piece of forgotten equipment that changed how soldiers survived in the field. You won't want to miss it.